What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about on a daily basis, including money, investing, the stock market, the fourth stimulus package update, and stimulus check update. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, make sure to click the subscribe button down below. And this way you won't miss out on new videos that come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember those times and tune in at those times so you don't miss out on new videos. We have lawmakers in Congress discussing potential new stimulus checks because of the price of gas and how bad inflation is right now. We'll be discussing that in this video. And because of what is going on with the war that Russia is doing on Ukraine, which is also making gas and oil rise across the world and here in the United States. In fact, some lawmakers are telling President Biden that they must do more to help out Ukraine. Some lawmakers are saying that President Biden should be doing more. Check this out. Let me know your thoughts on this.
Not fight a war against Russia in Ukraine. Direct confrontation between NATO and Russia is World War III, something we must strive to prevent.
No one wants World War III, but some lawmakers think that President Biden has been maybe a little too cautious in his approach to Russia's war in Ukraine. On Friday, 15 members of Congress sent this letter to the White House urging the president to take more decisive action to aid Ukraine and punish the Kremlin. The bipartisan group of lawmakers want additional sanctions levied against Chinese businesses with a connection to Russia, quote, in order to best ensure that Russia is unable to find a means of offsetting its exclusion from US and European markets and banking systems. The letter also asked Biden to help secure more aid for Ukraine by communicating, quote, the necessity of multilateral humanitarian assistance to our allies and partners around the world. And perhaps most controversially, the letter says that we should find a way to facilitate the transfer of MiG fighter jets to Ukraine, a move that descended into chaos last week when Poland prematurely announced the US would be taking care of the handoff before the Pentagon firmly rejected it, claiming it ran too high a risk of escalating tensions between NATO and Russia. Look, it's a difficult tightrope to walk. Russia has already warned that jets or other weapons sent from NATO into Ukraine would be legitimate targets for their attack. At the same time, how can we just stand by and watch what the lawmakers rightly describe as Russia's alarming disregard for Ukrainian civilian casualties without helping, quote, supply more comprehensive air defense systems to defend Ukraine and its people? A good question. Joining me now to discuss, one of the signatories of that letter to President Biden, Congressman Jason Crow from Colorado, a member of the House Armed Services Committee who served in Iraq and Afghanistan as an Army Ranger. Congressman, thanks for coming back on the show tonight. This letter urges the U.S. to help Poland transfer fighter jets to Ukraine. How can you be sure that won't cross Putin's invisible line and start a third world war, God forbid?
Well, good evening, matey. Good to have you be back on your show tonight. Well, here's a couple of things that I wanted to start by saying and making really clear. The first is the administration has done a very, very nice job of managing this and supporting the Ukrainians so far. But this war is far from over. And without more, the Ukrainians will not win this war unless we up our support and change the nature of our support. So now is not the time to take a victory lap. You take a victory lap when you win a battle, when you win the war. And we are not there yet. So more has to happen and be done. Otherwise, the Ukrainians will slowly be attrited and slowly lose this over time in the face of a far superior Russian force. Everything in war has risk. There's risk to action, but there's also risk to inaction. There's risk to doing nothing. And the risk of not changing the nature of our support, not upping it, that risk is the Ukrainians will most assuredly eventually lose and be overwhelmed by the Russians. And that has risk for European security, has risk for the United States, has risk for democracy. So, yes, we can't be sure about Putin's motivations or how he's going to respond, but we should not allow Vladimir Putin to have veto power over the nature of support that we provide to Ukraine.
So I agree with you. There is a balance between risk, and there is a risk to inaction versus a risk to action. But let me be blunt, just for the purposes of argument. Critics of yours would say, the risk to inaction is maybe tens of thousands of Ukrainian dead. Maybe, God forbid, horrifically hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian dead. The risk to action is maybe the end of human life on planet Earth.
Yeah, I don't see a material difference between providing MiG-29s and or more advanced air defense systems. Now, what we shouldn't do is get tied up and focus solely on the types of weapons. What the focus should be on is capabilities. What capabilities do the Ukrainians need to defend themselves and to tip the balance of this war more in their favor? They need to achieve air superiority or to prevent the Russians from achieving air superiority. And to do that will require a change in the type of support we're providing. That can be done with MiG-29 fighters. That can also be done with SA-7 and SA-10 air defense missiles and an increase in support to regional-based air defense systems that the Ukrainians desperately need at this point. So there are ways of getting this done. But we do need to change that. Otherwise, Vladimir Putin will eventually, over the long term, continue to press his advantage, which is a far superior force.
Congressman, you make a fair point about where you draw the line on the MiGs. You mentioned air superiority as well. Do you extend that argument about risk and inaction and where you draw the line also to the argument over a quote-unquote no-fly zone, or what others are calling an aerial combat zone?
Well, I've long said that a no-fly zone is untenable, and I agree with the president that we shouldn't send combat troops into Ukraine and be in the position of NATO or United States troops or assets directly in combat with Russia. And that's what that would mean, right? Actually, achieving a no-fly zone means we send our fighters up in the air over Ukraine. We shoot down Russian jets. That would create war with Russia, and I disagree with that. But we should do everything short of that to make sure the Ukrainians win. And that is providing all of the equipment and weapons necessary for the Ukrainians to win. And I just do not see a material difference between providing Stinger missiles, SA-7s, Javelins, everything we provided, and providing MiGs. These are all defensive capabilities, all of them are, because Ukraine is on the defensive. They're fighting for their survival. All of these will be used for the defense of Ukraine.
It's a fair argument. I guess none of us, thank God, can see into Vladimir Putin's dark mind and decide where he draws that line in terms of intervention. Let me ask you this, Congressman. If Russia does succeed in occupying Ukraine, what does the conflict look like from there? Are we looking at a possible years-long, decades-long insurgency, the kind of insurgency you fought against in Iraq?
Yeah, Russia is not ready for this. It's very clear that they made faulty assumptions. They didn't think they were going to meet resistance. They didn't think the Ukrainian military and the Ukrainians themselves would rise up and fiercely fight back in the way that they have been. They've been taken by surprise. That's why their invasion has been stumbling and bumbling and very brutal to their military, where the Ukrainians have been able to slow it down significantly to date. So this is going to be ugly for them. They have a force of 200,000 soldiers. Now, on average, about 20%, maybe 30% of any given force is actually a combat force. The rest are support services, logistics and supplies and maintenance. So maybe the Russians have 60 to 80,000 combat troops at max ready and at their disposal. And they're going to try to conquer and to actually occupy a country the size of Texas with over 40 million Ukrainians. They can't do it. And that includes several cities in excess of 1 million. Urban fighting is brutal. It absorbs combat power. During the invasion of Iraq, I was a young infantry lieutenant leading a platoon of paratroopers in some of the toughest battles, urban battles that we had during that invasion. And it just soaks up infantrymen. It soaks up armor units. They do not have the forces at their disposal currently to get this done. And that's why he's looking to Syria. That's why he's actively looking around the world to what few friends he has to help supplement his force.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Zelensky will be addressing the United States Congress on Wednesday. And, the United States and the European Union, multiple different countries in Europe, and even Switzerland, Switzerland always neutral, even they are supporting Ukraine. Even China has now sent a humanitarian package to Ukraine to support them with one small package worth about $800,000 US, the value of it. And also, lawmakers in Congress and on the state level, governors are also trying to tackle inflation and the price of gas, which has largely been spiking here dramatically because of the war and because of Putin invading. They've been just going up dramatically. The price of oil has come down, but the price of gas has not really come down. And well, here's what lawmakers are saying. First, we'll start with Democratic Senator Joe Manchin. Check this out.
So, do you think inflation now is a threat to our national security because it continues to rise?
Well, it's a threat to the quality of life that people have and depending on. That's the bottom line. We've got to make sure that we do everything we can to fight inflation. It's the number one enemy we have.
And on gas prices, the president said 2 days ago can't do much to bring them down. Has he given up on trying to fix this problem?
I hope not. And we're going to work hard. Basically, we got to produce. We got to get back in action. We got to do everything that we can to have confidence that we're going to produce the energy that we need in our country to defend ourselves, keep ourselves strong, get these prices back down, and be able to defend our allies.
Has the administration done enough to deal with inflation?
We're working on that. And I think my statement today will be very clear where we stand.
But I mean, are you satisfied with what they've done so far?
No, I think there's a lot more we can do. I really do. We have to get back to the leasing process so people have stability. They understand that we're going to be in this game for a while. We can walk and chew gum. That means you can basically provide the energy that the country needs. The horsepower you receive from fossil, you don't receive that horsepower from renewables. Not yet. We get hydrogen going, we get other things going, and geothermal and all that. We can. We're going to get there, but we're not there yet. So you got to make sure you take care of what you have to take care of. Keep the country strong, have the energy that we need to defend ourselves, to keep ourselves strong, to keep our people basically with a strong economy, but be able to defend our allies. And right now we're not able to do that, and we can. We have to do more of it. Anybody else?
You met with Ketanji Brown Jackson yesterday. Are you likely to vote for her?
It was a very good meeting. We had a very good meeting, but I told her very clearly, I says, I appreciate you very much. We had a very solid meeting for over an hour, close to an hour and a half. And I told her I was going to wait until see the hearing of the judiciary because it's a vetting process. But she's a very accomplished person.
Any red flags?
I didn't see any.
And here's what Senator Bernie Sanders has to say.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
And when we talk about high gas prices, it is important also to be talking about the fact that the largest oil companies in this country today are enjoying record-breaking profits.
It's $100 and it's not even a full tank.
Gas prices soaring to the highest average ever recorded.
Whether it's Mobil Exxon, whether it's BP, whether it's Shell, whether it's ConocoPhillips, we're looking at incredible profits at the same time as working people are being forced to shell out more and more just to get to work.
It's definitely some pain at the pump.
I just filled up right now, and it cost me $50 versus normally it costing me $30.
At a time when oil profits are at a record-breaking level, it is appropriate for the government to impose a windfall profits tax.
Prices at this Shell station in Los Angeles hitting nearly $7. And prices could soon soar even higher.
Move our country in a more energy efficient way and break our dependency on Middle East oil and fossil fuels.
Yeah, and Senator Bernie Sanders is the co-sponsor, basically a co-founder of the bill that Democrats have unveiled to tax big oil's profits, the major oil companies in the United States like BP, Shell, Exxon, to send checks to the public, as you can see here on the screen, because the problem here is that right now these oil companies are actually making larger profits than they have ever made in the history of ever. So that's the problem here, is that right now they're just gouging the American consumers. And that's why the Democrats have unveiled this bill to tax, basically take a portion of these oil companies' profits and basically distribute it as a stimulus checks to the public. So they would basically go back to somewhat of their normal profits, which is still billions and billions and billions of dollars, instead of billions and billions and billions of dollars plus more billions. They're going to take, if they can pass this bill, take those extra billions and give it to the American people, because they're basically going to try to penalize these oil companies for being so greedy. And they can do this because they can just literally pass a law and just add an extra tax onto these oil companies. All it is a tax, basically. It's just an extra tax. That's all it is. And they're just going to use the tax money and distribute it out with stimulus checks. So you don't have to get all concerned about how it's going to work. It's very simple. It's just an extra tax on oil companies. Very, very simple. And then they're just going to use the money that comes in from the taxes and send out stimulus checks with it. So you don't have to get too complicated in how it's going to work. That's how it's going to work. It's going to be very, very simple. And we know that the government's already sent out stimulus check 1, stimulus check 2, stimulus check 3, and they've sent out monthly stimulus checks called the child tax credits to over 60 million children last year. They're currently working on how to send them out this year. There's actually bipartisan proposals. Mitt Romney, Republican senator, just a few days ago, I think it was early last week, maybe 7 days ago or so, has come out with a new proposal from the Republicans, from Mitt Romney, the Republican senator. It's actually a higher amount. It's actually $4,200 for children under 6 and $3,000 for children 6 through 17. But there's some work requirements in there and a couple different things there. So there is proposals from Republicans now. So Republicans and Democrats could be coming to an agreement together. They would need 60 votes in the Senate. Democrats can pass it completely on their own in the House, but there might be some compromise there. They might come together. But really, in the Senate is where they need to pass it. Remember, those are monthly checks for 60 million children, and there was almost 5 million children that went back into poverty just when the monthly checks didn't go out in January alone. So all these things are very, very possible, because sending out checks like this, and remember the checks for the gas checks, I don't know what they're going to end up calling it if it passes. Stimulus checks, anti-inflation checks, gas tax checks. I mean, we'll have to see. It'll be interesting. So I have several different videos on this, and states are doing this here as well. We have several different states either passing or kicking around the ideas here for anti-inflation stimulus checks. A lot of different things here, and a lot of states are actually proposing getting rid of their state taxes on gas or pausing them for several months. A lot of different things here, which actually will put more money in your pocket as well. When you go to fill up the gas, it'll be saving you some money, every time you go to fill up. So I'll keep you up to date here with everything going on here in our country. Don't miss out on any new videos here at this point. Make sure to subscribe down below to our YouTube channel if you haven't yet. It doesn't cost a penny. It's completely free to do so. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to do so you don't miss out on new videos. It'll make sure the YouTube algorithm recommends videos to you so you don't miss out on them. Easiest way to do so is after subscribing, click the bell icon next to the subscribe button so you get reminders when we go live. And just remember that we go live every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm on like clockwork pretty much every single day. So I'll keep you up to date here with everything going on here in our country that you need to know about, daily news, as well as any stimulus news here that you need to know about. I'll keep you up to date here. You can click here to watch my newest video next. And you can also click here to see a new video on a potential $1,100 stimulus checks. New information just came out about that, and it's for everybody. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.